We've talked about factoring out the greatest common factor, and we've talked about factoring out rational numbers. Now, today, we're going to look at factoring out a negative number. Let's try factoring negative 2 out of negative 4p plus 10. Now, this is not unlike doing the rational numbers. We need to write each of these terms as a product of negative 2 and another factor. So I'm just going to rewrite it so that we can see it a little easier. Negative 4p plus 10. Now, we need to rewrite each of these terms as a product of negative 2 and another factor. That means right away we're going to know that we have the negative 2. What times negative 2 is negative 4p? Well, we know that a negative times a positive is a negative, so this is going to be a positive number. And we still also need that variable. So if we go negative 2 times 2p, we get negative 4p. Now, let's do the same thing with 10. We have negative 2. What times negative 2 is positive 10? Well, we know that negative 5 times negative 2 is positive 10. Now, as you see, we have the same factors here, which means we can use distributive property to factor out the negative 2. So, negative 2 goes on the outside, and then in our brackets we put, or our parentheses, 2p plus negative 5. Now, this isn't the greatest way to write it, so we're going to remember everything that we subtract is adding the opposite, so we're just going to do it the backwards way. So we have negative 2, and we're going to write 2p. Instead of writing plus, we're going to write minus. Instead of negative 5, we're going to write 5. So negative 2 times 2p minus 5. That's our final product. Let's do one more. Let's factor negative 5 out of negative 5d plus 30. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite it just to make it a little easier. Now remember, we need to take this negative 5 and rewrite each term as a product of negative 5 and another factor. So, negative 5 times what is negative 5d? Well, we just need to write a d. So, and negative 5 again times what is positive 30? Well, we know that negative 5 times negative 6 would do the trick for there. Now we have our same factors here, and we can use distributive property to write that down. Oopsies. So negative 5 times d plus negative 6, and we want to make this even simpler, so we're going to write negative 5 times d minus 6.